Something happened to me when I was 5 years old. I was staying with my grandparents while my mother went to night school. Laying in my bed, which will eventually become my grandmother's bed, I remember looking into the mirror that was hanging on the closet door. I remember seeing a blue flash out of the corner of my eye from the living room area, and then I saw it. A humanoid figure that kind of glided/teleported towards my bedroom in a zigzagging manner. Once it reached my bedroom door, it stood to the side, looked in, and made a motion with its finger for me to follow it. All I remember was pure fear, panic, and throwing my bed covers over my head. Then, darkness. I don't know what happened. 20 years later, I found myself back in that same bedroom. My grandmother had died, and I was staying with my grandfather just to be with him, love him, and just take care of him in any way I could. While staying with my grandfather 2 nights in a row, I experienced something very profound. I would wake up around 2 to 4 a.m. keenly aware of a presence in the room, which grew into a buzzing or vibrating ocean of yellow light all around me. I was concerned I was being abducted by the blue humanoid again, but it wasn't the same thing, and I don't recall being truly afraid. It was a happy positive, buzzing energy, and it tickled me. This happened twice, and I still don't understand. I'm still processing, I guess. My grandparents lived in an old house. It was a cabin style in the middle of nowhere, so the second floor was a loft type situation, and everything was wooden and rustic. I used to hate staying there when I was a kid, because I had to sleep on the second floor while their room was on the first floor, and I was a real anxious child. My grandmother was sick for my whole life. At the time, I was 9. She had cancer, but that's not how she died. She died by falling down the stairs. It was weird, because the only thing on the second floor was a game room and a bed for us kids. Nobody in the family knew exactly how it happened, why she was up there, etc. But obviously, I was now completely terrified of the stairs/lodge instead of just not liking it like I did before she died. My grandfather made plans to sell the house, and my mom and I went up there to help him pack. So we spent all Friday evening packing. That night, my mom and I stayed in the lodge. She kept flopping her arms and sleep slapping me throughout the whole night. I asked her why the next morning, and she said that she kept hearing me calling for her and wanted me to stop. Saturday was more of the same during the day. That night, my mom fell asleep downstairs on the couch. I was sleeping when I heard someone coming up the steps. I sat up in my bed just in time to see my mom fall backwards down the stairs. She was okay, but very afraid. She said that she just felt 2 hands on her shoulders that violently shoved her down the stairs. She got up to check on me because she could hear me calling for her. The thing is, I wasn't calling her. I was dead asleep. That was the last night we spent in that house, and to this day, I still think about how my grandmother died. Did she hear me calling her? Did she respond? Did she fall from the same trick my mom did? Either way, that house is pure evil. I'm so fucking glad it's out of our family. Back in the year 2000, when I was about 3 years old, I saw a UFO. It was a dark night out on the front porch of my grandmother's house. I was alone staring at the stars while my family mingled inside. Out of nowhere, across the street, I see a massive square-shaped craft hovering over a house. It was an aircraft gray, if that makes any sense. It just sat there, silent, taking up most of my vision. Even at that age, I knew that this craft was a UFO. I ran inside to show my family what I had just seen. I am greeted with a, What a creative mind. I ran back outside to see that the craft had vanished. Be me. 2 years ago, I moved in with my girlfriend. Second floor apartment in a very white trash kind of area in New England. Rent is $900 a month. Not bad given our jobs. 2 weeks after moving in is when some very minor paranormal activity began. It was objects falling down or being moved somewhere else, light thumps every now and then. This is how activity continues for about 2 months. 2 months into living there is when one night we hear someone moving about in the kitchen. For context, our kitchen had only one door out, and that was to the hallway that leads up to our house's 3rd floor. That door was locked. All of the doors were locked. I head out armed with a baseball bat. No one is in the kitchen. This happens again a week later. The sound of someone fucking about in the kitchen becomes a once-a-week occurrence at night. About a month later, my girlfriend has a day off. She's asleep on the couch when she wakes up and sees a man in the apartment. She calls the police, but they find no evidence that someone was there other than her and the dog. She describes what she saw, and it was a normal-looking man, white, maybe in his 30s or something, but wearing blue. All blue. The blue man, as I dubbed him, would be seen regularly. He'd appear randomly, not just in the apartment, but all over the property. I've even seen him once in the backyard early one morning. There was also a shadow person that I started seeing randomly. I would get a threatening vibe whenever I would see it, like it hated us or something. No, there was never an instance where the blue man and the shadow person were seen at the same place. The shadow person was strictly inside the apartment complex, whereas the blue man wasn't bound to it. At some point, a family moved into the 3rd floor. A week had passed, and the mom from the 3rd floor came to our apartment to ask if we heard anything strange. We told her that we had. The mom then tells us about an encounter her son had. Her son, who was maybe 10 or so, told her that he saw a young boy staring in through the 3rd floor window. Just typing that made me so uneasy. It immediately creeped me out. For those keeping score at home, that is officially 3 ghosts inside one house. 10 months into living in the house, the activity ramps up. What used to be objects falling became objects flying off the kitchen counter, items being tossed off the couch, etc. My girlfriend learns that the 1st floor tenants have also run into the blue man. Then comes the basement. God, I hated that fucking basement. Every time I went down there, it felt like I was being watched. This dark, hateful energy just came over me whenever I was down there. There was clearly a presence that wanted me out of there, and I would oblige. One night while I was doing laundry down there, I heard what I could only describe as a guttural hiss. I would begin hearing the hissing noise around the apartment from time to time after that. One night, all of the tenants are outside in the backyard. The mom from the 3rd floor tells me another story about how the shadow person would come into her son's room at night and tell him awful things like how his father hated him, how he was a mistake, a burden on his parents, and that no one ever loved him, etc. That sent chills down my spine. Around this time, the sound of people talking outside on the front porch can be heard. I hear voices that sound nothing like my neighbors, and I can't make out anything they're saying. It sounds like they're arguing, and the arguing escalates and then stops. There's also the sound of a phantom car that pulls into the driveway at night that never leaves or is seen. At around the 1-year mark, I would have another encounter with the blue man. He was trying to speak to me. I couldn't quite grasp what he was trying to tell me, but I can see that the words on his lips were very frantic. he just disappears. The activity in the home seems to hit its peak when one night my girlfriend and I have an encounter with the shadow person. It begins trying to do something, like expanding himself. I am not sure how to explain it. My girlfriend and I book it, take the dog, and spend the rest of the night sleeping in the car. In the morning, I see cop cars at the house. The first floor tenant told a story about how a homeless person broke in and scared us out. We spent the next few months trying to get ourselves out of that place. As this happens, the activity continues but less severe. Sightings of the blue man seem to keep up. Around November of 2019, my girlfriend's word of mouth finds us a place. Smaller and on the first floor, but way better. The rent is about $100 less, but that's a steal. I'm not sure what happened to the other tenants, but I heard that the first floor tenant is still there, and the tenants on the third floor moved in with their relatives. To this day, I am not sure who the blue man is. I never really bothered looking into it. Encountering him was scary because he was a ghost, but he never seemed threatening. I never did figure out about the ghost child, the hissing, or the entity in the basement. I moved in with my girlfriend about 3 years ago. She has always had really bad, vivid dreams. I sleep in the spare bedroom because I snore, and she is a super light sleeper. So she would get up at 5 a.m. to go to work. I was working a later shift and I got to sleep in a bit. I woke up one morning because I heard her voice in my ears saying my name as plain as day. But she had been gone for at least an hour. Later that day, she comes home. She asks me, "Why were you sleeping on the couch last night?" And I'm like, I was not. She said that when she left for work that morning, it was still dark and the living room light was off, and she heard my voice coming from the porch saying, "Goodbye." She didn't turn on the light, but saw a dark shape on the couch and assumed it was me. Pig related is the thing that she keeps seeing in her nightmares. I lived about 15 years in isolation with my cat, whom I helped birth and was holding when he died. So it might be entirely that my mind was having weird phantom visions relating to having been so used to his presence being there. Anyway, I would get nighttime hallucinations where I can see him very clearly standing there watching me. Or I would be woken up at night at the feeling of him jumping into bed with me just like how I used to feel. One notable time, I heard what sounded just like his cat swallows at night when sleeping near where he was buried. I got up in the middle of the night and went to spend some time where he was. And the following morning, all of his flowers had bloomed wider than I had ever seen them. Again, I can't say it's not just my mind being how it is, but that's my spiritual experience to share. Years ago, I used to work at an old warehouse with a guy named Buck. We were the youngest and newest guys there, so all the old guys used to dump their grunt work on us. One night, we were working an overnight shift. We did them occasionally. The old fuckers made us organize the attic. It's not really an attic, just a small room that oversees the warehouse. While digging through the boxes, Buck finds a large black case. Inside is a ventriloquist puppet. Ugly little bastard. Its face looks leathery and smushed like one of those fake shrunken heads. Only with white skin and rosy cheeks. It's got round, glassy blue eyes and a big smiling mouth full of little white teeth. Eerie as fuck. Buck's a huge practical joker. He says we should freak the other guys out with it.
"We'll just keep moving the doll around the warehouse until the old alcoholics think it's moving by itself."
Keck, I'm in. First place is the forklift. This doll is pretty big, so we managed to place it with his hands on the steering wheel like it's driving. Now we wait. After a bit, we hear somebody walking up. We peek around the corner. Nobody's there. but there's the distinct sound of someone walking around dragging their feet.
Probably a fucking rat,
says Buck. A minute later, someone's coming. Peekaboo.jpg. It's one of those older guys. He walks up to the forklift, hops into the seat, turns it on, and rides past us. No dummy to be seen. What the fuck? Where is it? Then Buck spots it. It's way down on the other side of the warehouse by the front door. We kept it locked on night shifts. It's just lying there, face up. At this point, my /X/ radar is going off. How the fuck did it get way down there? Buck just goes over and picks the dummy up. He says we will put it in the bathrooms this time.
Those old fucks take a shit every 5 minutes.
He sits the dummy down on one of the toilet seats with his head turned, like it's watching the door, pulls out a work knife and puts it in the puppet's hands. I wish I'd taken a pic. It looked like one of those cursed images I see here sometimes. We go and hide around the corner. And now we wait, part 2, Electric Boogaloo. I ask Buck, how the fuck did the dummy get so far away from the forklift? He just shrugs and plays on his phone. After a minute, we hear the bathroom door open. Buck looks up. I look at him. He looks at me. The bathroom door slams shut. We didn't even hear anyone approaching. Then we hear the same sound as before. Every day I'm shuffling .mp4. What the fuck? It's moving quickly away from the bathroom door. We peek around. Too late. Nobody's there. We can hear the shuffling moving down the next aisle. I am officially in /X/ mode. The damn dummy keeps walking away by itself. Buck calls me crazy, but he's kinda sketched. He double checks in the bathroom. It's empty.
Motherfuck,
says Buck.
He took my fucking knife.
We look around for a few minutes, but the dummy's gone. ScaredPayPay.jpg.
Boo!
We both jump and turn around. It's the warehouse manager, Miguel. He's holding the dummy. All he says is, "You two are fucked." Apparently, Miguel and the other guys were in the back of the warehouse. There's a big shelf back there packed with boxes. Makes a great hiding spot. They were just hanging out when they heard someone shuffling around in the other aisles of shelves. Miguel looked around the shelf and saw something dart into the nearby aisle. Something small, moving upright like a person. FYI, these guys were mainly Mexican and Salvadoranians from the country. Being a /X/ file and all, I used to talk to them about weird shit they'd seen out there, and nearly all of them had stories. These guys were incredibly superstitious. Miguel, though, is a tough fucker, not afraid of anything. He rushes towards the aisle and the shuffling stops. He finds the puppet laying face up with Buck's knife next to it. Miguel pockets the knife. "It's not mine, caballo." That's what all the older guys called Buck. "But you can have your little voodoo doll back." He tosses it at us and walks off. Figure the best thing to do at this point is to put the dummy back inside the box. We go back to the attic, lock the little fucker up in its case. Later, Miguel comes up and tells us to go organize some chairs. "Right away, boss." Buck and I finish about an hour before the end of our shift. Maybe we can leave early. We go find Miguel to ask him. Look everywhere. Then we check the attic. Miguel is there, passed out. Buck shakes him awake and Miguel starts mumbling. I notice that the ventriloquist case is open and point it out to Buck. Miguel wakes up fucking glassy-eyed and we assume he's been drinking up here. He seems confused. Says that the last thing he remembers is checking his phone for the time. Then Buck was shaking him awake. He has no idea how he got into the attic. He checks his pocket and his phone is missing, along with Buck's knife. But even worse, his warehouse keys are gone also. He's going to catch hell from the boss for that. There's no way he can lock the front door without the keys. Oh well, fucker. Too bad. We gotta go. Buck and I go to clock out and head for the front door. What the fuck? It's wide open and the keys are dangling from the lock. We told Miguel and he breathed a huge sigh of relief. We talked to him about what could have happened and I bring up the empty dummy case. Miguel shakes his head and laughs. Huh, you guys are fucked up. He goes back to work and Buck and I leave. Buck and I quit not that long after. Nothing strange happened ever since.
Was a security guard at a warehouse depot that stored overseas shipping containers close to the local port. Worked graveyard shift with another guard. Just the two of us from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We had to patrol the entire perimeter every hour. Took a total of 30 minutes to complete at a steady pace. Had to scan tags with the phone to appease our employers, cause the guards there had a reputation of slacking off and skipping patrols. One night, I am half done with the said patrol. It's past midnight. Get on one of the loading docks at the furthest end of the warehouse from where my coworker was. Approach a door that had a scan tag next to it. As I get within a foot from the tag, I suddenly hear running. It sounded like someone wearing large boots. Stomping at a steady pace of 95 BPM on a metronome. I quickly turn around and I am frozen still for 10 seconds listening to this noise. I expect to see someone turn the corner of the loading dock and come charging at me. Probably a thief or a homeless guy, I think to myself. I get ready to stand my ground, but the odd thing is that the stomping didn't seem to come from any particular direction. In fact, it was as if it was coming from everywhere all at once. The stomping slowly dissipates. Again, the stomps were not decaying away from me, but not in any particular direction, left or right of the loading dock. Whoever it was couldn't be running away directly in front of me, as there is a fence and a freeway just on the other side of that fence. The person could only run towards their left or right. In all, the stomping lasted 20 seconds straight. I saw no one around me. No one was coming towards me. I suddenly snapped back to my senses, and I think it's better to call my coworker on the other side of the warehouse ASAP and tell him to call the cops before I could possibly get my ass beat or killed. No way I'm letting this asshole get away easy if I die. My coworker calls the cops, and they send a chopper and 10 squad cars. Did not find anyone. Boss says the cameras didn't see a damn thing. It's not a very over-the-top story here, but true and pretty trippy nonetheless.
Walking alongside a canal at night with two friends in a not-so-built-up part of town. It's pretty dark, for a few streetlights lighting up nearby businesses. All of a sudden, the area around us lights up. We all turn around to see a bright blue light in the sky hovering there, shining a white beam of light on us. It's super bright, but we can look right into it for some reason. It seems to dematerialize into a weird phosphorescence and shoots away at the speed of a shooting star. Not a sound was made except for a faint rushing sound, like waves crashing, when it left. For some reason, my friends and I agreed not to talk about it, and we remained silent for whatever reason for at least 7 years until we brought it up in a conversation. Hey, remember the time we literally saw a UFO? It's like the memory was hold or something. I haven't shared this story with anyone since it happened, but my sister was also there, so maybe I'll ask her about it sometime. This is the only real spooky thing I have ever experienced. It's only small, but it stuck with me. Anyways, here goes. Be me, 9 years old, about 11 years ago. Watched my dad passed away from a heart attack earlier in the year. It's probably about 9 or 10 at night. Sitting in the living room with my sister, 10 years older than me. I just finished watching the movie. Turned the TV off. Talk to each other when we hear a strained, raspy voice coming from the open window right next to us from the backyard. We stop talking, waiting to hear it again. Another long exhale. We both scream and run into our mom's room and tell her what we heard. Hear it one more time as we're coming back into the living room with my mom. It's too dark to see anything outside the window. She tells us it's probably a gecko or something. They can hiss if you scare them. I walk over to the sliding door that opens to the backyard and yell out. I can't remember exactly what, trying to scare whatever's out there. We calmed down, and before going to bed, we all agreed that it was just a gecko. It was easier to think that, but I thought about the raspy breathing for a while after that night. I realized it reminded me of my dad's ragged breath from the night I came out of the living room as my mom was trying to resuscitate him while the ambulance came. I didn't remember till years later that my dad's ashes were buried not that far from the window. That's it. It might not be scary to you, but it freaked the shit out of my sister and I. I don't believe in ghosts, but I still wonder what it was that came to our window sometimes. Mostly when I wake up in the middle of the night. The night my grandmother died, I was there kneeling next to her and holding her hand. She was in intense pain and knew that death was coming. She said, "I don't want the Lord to be mad at me." At that moment, I felt a tremendous warmth flood through me. It felt like fire fell into my body, and she must have felt it too, because she became calm. I didn't let go of her hand for a long time. The next morning we woke up, she had passed. I believe what I experienced was the Holy Spirit. I believe it came to comfort my grandmother, and that, her fear of the Lord confirming my own faith, God also saw fit to anoint me as a believer. That is the most genuine spiritual experience I ever had, although it's not the most paranormal. Got a few stories from being abroad on an old sailing ship for half a year, as well as some about the weird fucking people I've met working the music industry. Here's a ship story to start. If y'all like it, I'll post more. Be me, 19 and want to travel. Apply for a deckhand position on an old sailing vessel. Going to skip the stories from the island I train on for now because that's a whole nother can of worms. Voyage is going decent. Teaching elementary school kids about the boat and squids and shit. Pull a night watch with the captain. Old ex-Navy fucker, so harsh but generally a good guy. Start talking with him since the night watch is boring as fuck. Nothing to do but stare at the water and drink coffee. Cap and I jaw about ghost stories. He tells me that the ship we're on is fucking haunted. Tells me that the ghost's name is Rose. She was the mistress of a previous captain. Says she was caught by the old captain's wife, and the wife made the captain throw her overboard. Says Rose drowned, but her soul got stuck on the ship. Asks Cap what kind of shit she gets up to. Says she tries to bother him a lot, opening the door to his cabin, pulls the sheets off his bunk, whispers in his ears when he sleeps. Occasionally, she'll fuck around with the lights and shit, as well when it gets too calm or stormy. Cap finishes the story, and I decide to go lap around the deck. So fucking bored.jpg. Suddenly the coffee hits me all at once. Call of the Wild.jpg. Desperately needed to take a shit. Finally get there, and it's fucking occupied. Knock and tell whoever is in there to get out. Groaning from inside the head. Damn, they must have to take a shit more than me. End up shitting over the side of the boat. Still gotta wipe. Walk back to the head to get TP. Head is vacant. Wipe and go back to meet the captain. Ask him who the fuck was in the head. Says he thought I was. Tell him what happened. Cap said that nobody announced that they were going above deck. Bring it up at the crew muster. Nobody shat last night. Fucking Rose took a ghost shit. My face went. I have a story. My brother and his wife own a small business, and they sometimes have to drive out and meet clients at random points in the day. Well, they got a call one afternoon, and my brother asked me to watch my 1-year-old niece, Emily. Emily and I spend the afternoon together. Night falls. I put Emily in a crib that I keep for her in the living room. My brother calls and apologizes for the delay. Says they're about to head back. I start to make cookies to kill time. Living room is dark so Emily can sleep. I've got the oven light on in the kitchen so I can see what I'm doing. Basically, it's low lighting. Almost done with the cookies when I hear Emily babbling in her sleep. I turn around to check on her. See a dark shape standing over her crib. What.png? It's bending over real low as if trying to get a good look inside. Fight or flight kicks in. Nobody fucks with my niece. I rush towards the crib and I see the shape stand straight up. It's as tall as the fucking ceiling. Looks like black smoke. I'm holding a whisk and the only thing I can think of is to throw it at the shape. I don't know, I was scared. Just as the whisk touches the shape, it dissipates and I hear a human voice cry out. Whisk slams into the wall. Emily wakes up and starts crying. Brother shows up and can't get her back to sleep. I ruined his night, LMAO. If for wraith you hap to see, whisk it once that you'll be free. Not particularly spooky. No ghosts or UFOs or weird entities or whatever. But I do have an unexplainable phenomenon story. Being me, 17 at the time, have a really vivid, weird dream one night. My family and I were driving home from what felt like a lengthy car ride. Pull up to a house I recognized, park in the garage. Usually just park in the driveway, so it was kinda weird. Mom stops us before we get out. Before you guys get out, I have some really bad news. The dog died while you guys were gone last night. Paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. Go in the house and I wake up. It's about a year later, visiting grandparents for Christmas. My cousins live about an hour from my grandparents, so we visit them a lot over the holidays. Spend the night at my cousin's place. My parents and grandparents pick us up in the morning. Start the long drive back to my grandparents' house. Finally pulled into my grandparents' driveway. Feeling a weird sense of dread now. Dad doesn't walk well, and grandparents' driveway is on a steep hill, so we pull into the garage. Before we go inside, Mom stops us. I have some bad news. This obviously doesn't quell the dread. The dog died while you were gone last night. Again, paraphrasing. Go inside with the most bizarre mix of sadness and deja vu I ever felt. Maybe a little mundane for /x/, but for the life of me, I can't come up with a reasonable explanation of how accurate that dream was. I've only ever had maybe one other dream where I got a similar feeling, but I may be able to explain that one. Been there a couple times since I lived about a mile away. Very weird place. Used to be a native burial ground. Used as a burial ground for excommunicated people, murderers, rapists, etc. People dying on the property after the official cemetery opened. Used as a dumping ground for bodies by Al Capone's gang. People doing weird cult rituals up until the 1970s. Don't think much of it until I visited back a few years ago, especially the second time. Be me. Be dumb 19-year-old. Friends invited me to a haunted cemetery. Fuck yeah, sounds cool. Head there near sundown. Cemetery is deep in the woods of the forest preserve. Have to hide from cops after sundown. Literally lay behind a rotten tree trunk until cops with flashlights pass by. Pretty dope. What are we doing here again? Anon, we're going to try and summon something with the Ouija. Haha, come on, pussy. Seems stupid, but why not? Less than 10 minutes after the cops leave, thick fog covers the grass around the headstones. Temperature drops dramatically. Dumb friends pull out the Ouija board and we start a session on top of the large headstone. A few minutes in, Ouija board not doing much, about to wrap up. Little glass jitters off the board and shoots a foot away into a bush. What the fuck? Which one of you guys did that? Anon, we didn't do shit. Feel weird. The feeling when the pressure drops right before a big storm. Pressure in my chest. Actually feel like the wind got knocked out of me. What the fuck? Fall down. Can hardly breathe. I don't have asthma. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Suddenly fine. Get up, immediately dash towards the car. Friends follow quickly. Don't stop until in the car. Back hurts so bad. Skin burns. Take off shirt. Actual burn marks on my back. Haven't been back since. My parents thought it was just bad poison ivy. But this was in the middle of the fall, and I had a long sleeve shirt on and a coat the whole time. Be about 15 years old. Waiting in the car at the grocery store while my family shops. Notice a bright star in the sky above the building and just watch it. It starts getting bigger. It starts growing larger and larger until my entire vision is white. Everything goes back to normal, and my family's walking back to the car. The thing is that they had just gone into the store. It seems like I lost time, but I never looked at a clock. It was very surreal. What is up, guys? Psychotic Maniac here, and it has been long overdue. I have been gone away for a long time, and I apologize, but with a new year comes new beginnings, new adventures, and new journeys that I hope you will be willing to take with me, and I hope you stay tuned to see what 2021 has in store for all of us. I hope you enjoyed these 4chan stories that I found for you guys. I decided to take a different route instead of Reddit stories. I wanted to try 4chan for a little bit, and I really enjoyed recording these stories for you guys, especially story number 7. I decided to try a different voice for fun.
If you guys would like to hear me read stories in different voices, let me know in the comments down below.
It feels great to be back, and I am making it a goal this year to make videos as consistently as I can for you guys. Not just Reddit stories, or 4chan stories, or horror stories, just whatever stories either I find or you guys find and want me to read. I will do that for you guys. If you like this video, destroy that like button. If you have any comments or feedback, let me know in the comment section down below. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button and join the Psycho Squad. Don't forget to hit that bell icon because more videos will be coming very, very soon. Thanks for watching, be safe, and remember, everyone is a tad bit insane.